This is a bit of a weird topic, and I'm not sure who's going to agree with me or who's not going to agree with me when it comes to this. I think in one case, maybe Microsoft would be right in the way that they handle these things. And the other side, I think maybe on a quality standpoint, I think that it's potentially Sony who handles things a little bit better. But usually, Sony handles their developers in a much better fashion than Microsoft. So it is a little bit concerning, and it's a topic I think that a lot of people are going to be very interested in. One of the things that I think that how I feel about it is I would love to see it in the future where developers are given second chances, and I think it should be regardless of how a game sells or maybe even how a game scores the first time around, because there's such a thing as potential. And I just got to be honest, when it comes to video games, for me personally, it's always sort of been like that. Like Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on the Genesis was miles better than Sonic 1, and it was the little differences, the spin dash and things like that, that really kind of enabled that to be such a great game. Uncharted 1 was a good game, but it was average compared to Uncharted 2, so the sequel didn't really hit until, you know, when that hit, it was like game over. That might have been the best game of that generation. Again, you have to give, I think, proper time and chances. But with that being said, I do want to get into this topic because I have a lot to say, and I'm sure you guys want to hear what the crux of this whole conversation is about. Hey there, everyone. I'm the Crapgamer, and of course, this is Crapgamer Reviews, your home for gaming news, opinions, reviews, and much more. You'll probably notice a few cool changes around here, and hopefully that doesn't stop you from giving us a like and possibly even consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much for choosing to spend some of your free time with me today. It really does mean a lot. I also want to say that I am using a new microphone setup, so if you guys like it, let me know. You can let me know on Twitter and things like that as well, or Xbox or PlayStation. I'm still getting the hang of it. It's more of a boom mic setup, so I'm not as used to kind of using that one for doing videos, but hopefully it sounds good, and hopefully you guys are enjoying the content. And if you do enjoy it, hey, go ahead and leave us a like. Now, what's interesting here is the former Days Gone developer says Sony made them feel like the game was a disappointment despite selling over 8 million copies. Think about this for a second. The game sells over 8 million copies. Now, I know that I saw a lot of comments in there, and listen, the peanut gallery, don't get involved in this, alright? Because this isn't a question about, well, there's 115 million PS4s in the world, why did it only sell 8 million copies? Listen, we can do that argument for anything. Like how many copies of Halo Infinite sold? There's 50, some million Xboxes that could have played it, and hundreds of millions of PCs, and we get zero reports or indications on how many it sold. Again, a lot of third-party games that are on multiple platforms, including PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, sell much less than 8 million copies. So let's not go there and get involved in that kind of nonsense. 8 million copies is a huge number. Okay, so former Days Gone game director Jeff Ross has taken to Twitter in response to Ghost of Tsushima selling over 8 million copies since launch. Yesterday, it was reported that Sucker Punch Productions' open-world samurai title had been selling quite well since the game's launch back in July of 2020. Interestingly enough, Ross decided to reply to this joyful announcement by expressing some frustration regarding another Sony exclusive, 2019's Days Gone. According to the former game director, when he left Sony's Bend Studios last year, Days Gone was out for roughly 1.5 years and also managed to sell over 8 million copies. Despite seemingly selling quite as well as Ghost of Tsushima, Ross says that Sony has made the team feel like their game was some sort of a disappointment. This is exactly what he had to say, and I quote, "At the time I left Sony, Days Gone had been out for a year and a half and a month and sold over 8 million copies. It's since gone on to sell more, and then 1 million plus on Steam. Local studio management always made us feel like it was a big disappointment." Well, that's a rather interesting message from Ross, and it isn't the first time, however, that the game director expresses his frustration with Sony. Back in April of last year, Ross said that the Metacritic score is everything to Sony, and this is what he had to say back then, and I quote, "I took it hard, to be honest, because again, this is just the reality of Sony. Metacritic score is everything." When talking about the first wave of Days Gone reviews upon the game's release back in 2019, he said, "If you're the creative director on a franchise and your game is coming out to a 70, you're not going to be the creative director on that franchise for very long. So, what do you guys feel about this? Do you guys feel that it was a fair thing? Do you guys feel that it was an unfair thing? Is this something that, you find to agree with Sony? Like, I like the fact, on one hand, that Sony is putting quality above sales. But I thought that they should have also maybe went out there and supported them a little bit better in terms of sales. Like, this was their first attempt at a AAA console game in like 20 years, I believe. So the fact that they put a game out that did so well, and, yes, it wasn't as well received, but there are also, I'm not trying to make excuses for it, but it's been well documented. But the game itself, the franchise, that it could be, the game itself launched, and reviewers actually were in a weird spot because they got the game well before the day one patch, and so people were playing great game, but they were playing it without the day one patch, so there was a lot of issues and things like that. So I do think that was something that we had to kind of deal with, and I do think that that's something that hurt the game. Listen, is it perfectly? Do I agree with people that think that, hey, this game was average? Yeah, I think that if you thought it was average, there's nothing I can say to change your mind. The game went on too long, in my opinion. Believe it or not, for me to say this, but yeah, there was some issues where it was possibly too much content. And the other thing is, they already have a zombie game, right? Even though this one wasn't as into it as as good a story, I do think that it's just one of those things that from what we were actually seeing, yeah, the zombie game wasn't nearly as good as, say, a Last of Us or Last of Us Part 2. But it's a very good game, in my opinion, and they addressed all the problems very quickly, and I thought that the game, having sold as much as it did, should have definitely warranted a sequel instead of almost tearing them down and possibly almost closing them. But on the other hand, there's games like State of Decay 2, which scored piss poorly for Microsoft, and yet that developer gets a sequel chance. So to me, I just find that to be a little bit odd. It wouldn't even surprise me to see Microsoft take another shot at Crackdown down the road, despite the fact that the last couple have scored really, really badly. And even something like Sea of Thieves, believe it or not, scored really low compared to what we would have normally seen. And we also see a lot of love for stuff like Rise, Son of Rome, and even the Order 1886, right? But the Order 1886 not only scored badly, but it didn't sell exactly very well either. So it is sort of a weird kind of dilemma that we see from these companies, and I would love to see and hear what everybody else has to say about this. I just have the feeling that if a game sold 8 million on Xbox and it was a 71 rating, we'd be getting a sequel. Like, I have zero doubts about that. There's kind of a difference of strategy and opinion there when it comes to Xbox and PlayStation. So I just think that would have put the game into the upper echelon of Xbox exclusives, and we would have definitely seen a sequel. Whereas on Sony, but again, on Xbox, we might not even have seen that game get greenlit. Whereas on PlayStation, it got greenlit, they took the chance, but then, I guess it wasn't as good, or it wasn't good enough to warrant getting a sequel, or they were worried about, the lower scores and things like that. I personally think they could have hit their stride with a sequel, and a sequel could have easily been in the 80s, because I believe that game, the first one, was a game that should have been at least an 80 Metacritic, in my humble opinion. Obviously, I'm not, anything special, but that's just my personal opinion, and I'm sure that there's people out there that agree with me on this, but I just feel like there's two different approaches that Sony and Microsoft take, and I don't think one of them is particularly right or one of them is particularly wrong, but I do know that if a game sold 8+ million on Xbox, you'd damn sure be seeing a sequel, and the fact that we're not seeing a Days Gone sequel is a little bit disheartening, because there's a lot of fans out there that love this game, and I also get that the game went on sale kind of quickly and things like that, but still, I can understand this guy's frustration. Ghost of Tsushima wasn't a perfect game either, and I think that, that's one of the things that we as fans kind of forget, there's no such thing as a perfect game, and it would have been nice for that studio to get a little bit of love. It seems like they were kind of treated a little bit harshly. I don't know. I will link this, and you guys can let me know what you think. Please sound off, rate, comment, subscribe. Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, Crap Gamer 'em up. Thanks for watching. Crap Gamer out.